The living room smelled faintly of rosemary and garlic, the kind of scent that used to make me feel at home, safe. Tonight, though, it felt different. I couldn't explain why. The table was set neatly, candles flickering in soft amber light, music humming low in the background. Claire moved gracefully around the kitchen, pouring wine as though everything in our world was perfectly intact. I sat watching her, tracing the rim of my glass with my thumb. My chest tightened, not because of anything she had said, but because of something she hadn't. Silence had begun to live between us, stretching itself across the table, suffocating the small moments we used to treasure. Her eyes flicked toward me, and for a split second I caught it. The hesitation, the flicker of distance, the unspoken wall between us. She smiled after it, but the smile felt rehearsed, polished like glass hiding cracks. "Long day?" she asked, sliding into her chair. "Yeah," I said, though I couldn't recall half of what I had done at work. My mind was on her, always on her. We clinked glasses softly. The red wine tasted bitter tonight, and I wondered if it was just me. "You've barely touched your food," Claire said, voice light but her eyes avoiding mine. "I'm not that hungry," I replied, though the steak looked cooked to perfection. It wasn't the food. It was the tension pressing against the walls of the room, invisible but undeniable. Her hand brushed her phone beside the plate, fingers quick to turn it face down. I noticed. She noticed me noticing, and for a heartbeat neither of us spoke. I forced a smile, pretending I hadn't seen a thing. "The house feels quieter these days," I said. "Quieter?" She gave a little laugh, but it didn't sound real. "Isn't that what you always wanted? Peace?" I studied her face, the way her lips moved, the way her eyes darted away, the way her shoulders stiffened at even the smallest question. Something was slipping, though I couldn't yet see the whole picture. We fell into silence again. The candlelight carved shadows across her cheekbones, flickering as though mocking us. Once I would have reached across the table, taken her hand, and asked her what was wrong. Now I stayed still, afraid of the answer. "Daniel," she said, softly breaking the quiet. "We'll be okay, right?" The question startled me, not because of what she said, but because of the tremor beneath her words, like she was asking herself as much as me. "Of course," I said, though even I could hear the uncertainty in my voice. She nodded, offered another smile, and went back to her plate. The clinking of silverware echoed too loud in the room. I excused myself early, stepping onto the balcony. The night air was cool, almost sharp, carrying the faint hum of traffic in the distance. I looked through the glass door at Claire still, seated at the table, her face illuminated by her phone screen now that she thought I wasn't watching. The glow washed over her, making her look like someone I didn't recognize. I closed my eyes and tried to shake the thought away. But something gnawed at me deep inside, something whispering that this perfect evening was only a mask, and soon it would shatter. I returned inside, forcing a smile when she looked up. Her phone vanished under a napkin. "Tomorrow, I told myself. Tomorrow I'd stop pretending not to notice. That night, after the so-called perfect evening, I lay in bed wide awake, staring at the ceiling. Claire's back was turned toward me, her breathing steady as if sleep had claimed her instantly. But every so often the faint glow of her phone lit up the room. She didn't move to check it. She just let it buzz once, twice, 3 times. Until finally, she slid her hand beneath the pillow and silenced it. I shut my eyes, pretending to be asleep. My heart thudded hard, louder than the rain tapping the window. Morning came, and nothing was said. She brewed coffee, humming softly, the way she always did when she wanted to cover unease. Her phone stayed close, never more than a breath away from her hand. At breakfast, I tested the silence. "You've been getting a lot of messages lately." She froze only for a second, then lifted her cup casually. "Work's been busy," nodded, forcing a neutral smile. At midnight, her eyes flicked up to mine, sharp for a fraction of a second before softening. "Deadlines don't care about the clock, Daniel." I laughed weakly, though nothing was funny. I wanted to press, to demand the truth, but I swallowed the words. The fear of her answer outweighed the pain of my suspicion. The rest of the day blurred. Work felt meaningless. My mind kept circling back to the glow of her phone, the whispers of those unanswered messages. When I came home, I noticed something new. She had changed her passcode. I caught her entering at once, her body angled away from me like a guilty secret. At dinner, she set her phone face down again. I stared at it like it was a weapon aimed straight at me. "Who keeps calling?" I asked finally. Her fork paused midair. "I told you it's work." "And the missed calls?" She placed the fork down slowly, meeting my eyes with a patience that felt rehearsed. "Daniel, you're imagining things. Do you want me to show you?" I hesitated. That was the trap. If I said yes, she'd show me something harmless, carefully chosen. If I said no, she'd call me paranoid. Either way, I'd lose. "No," I muttered, shoving another bite into my mouth, though I could barely swallow. Her smile was faint, victorious. The way she thought I wouldn't notice. Later that week, the pattern grew. Late nights, muted calls, her laughter muffled in the bathroom when she thought I was asleep. Each time I tried to tell myself I was imagining it, she was my wife, my Claire. Surely I was reading too much into shadows. But shadows grow when ignored. One evening, she left her phone on the couch while stepping into the kitchen. My pulse quickened as the screen lit up with a message. I didn't touch it. I only saw the preview. "Can't wait to see you again." The blood drained from my face. By the time she returned, the phone was gone, slipped back into her pocket. I tried to speak, but the words twisted inside me. Instead, I whispered, "Claire, do you still love me?" She froze. The wine glass in her hand trembled slightly before she forced a laugh. "Of course I do. Don't be ridiculous." But her eyes didn't match her words. That night, she turned her back to me again. I stared at the glow of the phone under her pillow, each buzz slicing into me like a knife. I wanted to snatch it, to drag the truth into the light. But fear rooted me to the mattress. I told myself I was overthinking. That marriage had phases, that suspicion was poison of my own making. But deep down, I already knew. Something was terribly wrong. And soon, I would see the face of the man who lived inside. Those messages. The name appeared first in passing. Claire mentioned him one morning while buttering toast, her voice lighter than usual, like a bird's song breaking through storm clouds. "Ethan said the presentation yesterday went really well," she murmured, almost to herself. I looked up from my coffee. "Ethan?" She hesitated, then smiled faintly. "A colleague. He's new at the firm, very sharp, everyone likes him." It should have ended there, a meaningless detail in a simple story about her day. But something in her tone clung to me. The way her lips curved as she spoke his name. The brightness in her eyes that had been missing for weeks. That was when I realized I hadn't seen her smile like that for me in a long time. The next days unfolded like a cruel pattern. Claire's phone buzzed with new messages, and though she tried to disguise it, I noticed the rhythm. A pause, a quick reply, a soft laugh escaping her lips before she caught herself. I asked casually one evening, "Was that Ethan again?" Her eyes flickered to mine, surprised, then carefully indifferent. "Yes, he needed feedback on a report." "Seems like he needs a lot of feedback," I muttered. She gave me a look, half warning, half pity. "Don't be jealous, Daniel. It's work." Jealous. The word stung. I wasn't jealous, I told myself. I was attentive, protective. But in the quiet of our bedroom, when she curled away from me and typed beneath the covers, I felt something darker, the slow burn of betrayal inching closer to my heart. One Friday night, she came home later than usual, cheeks flushed, eyes bright. I asked where she had been. "Team drinks," she said quickly. "Just unwinding after the week." "With Ethan?" Her pause lasted too long. "With everyone," I nodded, though the truth settled heavy in my stomach. I could picture it, her laughter spilling easily beside him, her gaze lingering too long, her smile, the same smile I used to own, now gifted to a stranger. That night, I dreamt of shadows, moving between us, and a faceless man stealing pieces of her away while I stood helpless. I woke drenched in sweat, my chest aching with something I didn't want to name. The following Sunday, Claire suggested we attend a work gathering together. Relief flickered through me. Perhaps this was my chance to see for myself. The restaurant, buzzed with chatter, the air rich with roasted meat and clinking glasses, stood beside Claire forcing polite smiles until she waved someone over. "Daniel, this is Ethan." The man was taller than I expected, with sharp features and an easy confidence. His handshake was firm, his eyes direct, but it wasn't him that rattled me. It was her. Her face lit up, blooming in his presence in a way I hadn't seen in months. Her laughter rang too clear, her touches on his arm too casual, her gaze too alive. And I stood there, an outsider watching my own wife slip away piece by piece through a smile I no longer recognized. Ethan spoke warmly. "Claire's been incredible at helping me settle in. I don't know what I'd do without her." I forced a grin. "She's always been good at helping people." Claire's eyes darted to mine, searching for something in my tone. I looked away, afraid of what might spill out if I met her gaze. The night dragged on, every laugh she shared with him carving another crack inside me. By the time we returned, silence stretched between us like a canyon. In the bathroom mirror, I stared at my own reflection, jaw tight, eyes hollow. The stranger wasn't just in her smile. It was now living inside me too, reshaping me into someone bitter, someone suspicious, someone breaking. And I knew soon I would no longer be able to contain it. The night after meeting Ethan, I couldn't shake the image of Claire's face when she looked at him, so alive, so unguarded. I kept replaying it in my mind like a cruel film I couldn't stop. I told myself maybe I was exaggerating, maybe I was twisting things because of my own insecurities. But deep down, I already knew. The proof came when I wasn't looking for it. Claire had left her phone on the nightstand while she showered. Normally, she carried it everywhere, even into the bathroom. That night, though, it buzzed once, then again. I sat frozen on the bed, staring at it, my pulse hammering in my throat. I told myself not to touch it, that crossing that line would make me the villain. But the screen lit up with a missed call. Ethan. And then, before the light faded, the voicemail notification appeared. My hand moved on its own. I picked up the phone, my fingers trembling as I pressed play. His voice filled the room. Warm, low, intimate. "Claire, I miss you already. Tonight felt too short. I can still taste you. Call me when you can." The words cut through me like glass. I couldn't breathe. My chest collapsed inward, my vision blurred, and for a moment I thought I might actually be dying. The shower still ran. Steam curled under the bathroom door, mocking me with its softness. I dropped the phone back on the nightstand, my hands shaking violently, my stomach twisting into knots. When Claire emerged, wrapped in a towel, humming softly, I saw her differently. She was still my wife, the woman I'd loved for years, but also a stranger who had carved my heart open without hesitation. "Daniel?" she asked, pausing when she saw my face. "What's wrong?" I stared at her, at the droplets of water sliding down her neck, at the faint smile she wore like nothing had changed. My throat burned as I whispered. I heard it. Her brows knit. "Together." "Heard what?" Ethan's voicemail. My voice cracked, heavy with grief and fury. "I heard everything." The silence that followed was unbearable. She blinked once, then twice, before slowly sitting on the edge of the bed. "Koi went through my phone?" she asked softly, almost with pity. "I didn't have to," I snapped. "You left it here, and he called, and he told you he could still taste you." My voice broke on the last words. Claire's eyes glistened, but not with guilt, with calculation. "Daniel, listen to yourself. You're twisting this." "Twisting what?" I rose to my feet, fists clenched. "He said it, Claire. He said it. How much clearer does it need to be?" She shook her head, her voice dropping into that dangerous, calm register. "You don't understand. You've been distant, cold. I needed..." Don't you dare blame me for this. Her lip trembled, but she didn't look away. You don't see me anymore. You don't touch me. You bury yourself in work and then act surprised when I feel invisible. The words stabbed at me. Part of me wanted to scream back, to tear the house apart with my rage. Another part crumbled, wondering if she was right, if maybe I had failed her somehow. But then the voicemail echoed again in my head, and clarity returned. You betrayed me, I whispered. You lied to me, and now you're trying to make me believe it's my fault? Claire's composure cracked for just a second, fear flickering across her face, but she masked it quickly, standing tall. If you keep obsessing like this, Daniel, you'll destroy us. Not me. You. I laughed bitterly, a hollow sound that chilled the room. Us? Claire, there is no us, not anymore. The words hung heavy in the air, final and sharp. She didn't respond. She only turned away, slipping under the sheets as though nothing had been said. I stood there staring at her, at the woman who had once been my everything. I wanted to leave, to slam the door, to burn every trace of her from my life, but my legs refused to move. Instead, I lowered myself onto the chair by the window, staring into the darkness until dawn crept over the horizon. The house was quiet, but not peaceful. It was the quiet of broken glass scattered across the floor, dangerous, sharp, impossible to step through without bleeding. And I knew, as the first light of morning cut across the room, that nothing would ever return to what it had been. The shatter had come, and it was only the beginning. The morning after the voicemail changed everything. Silence became the new language of our home. Claire moved around the kitchen like a ghost, her footsteps light but deliberate, her eyes never meeting mine. I sat at the table, hands wrapped around a coffee mug I didn't drink from, watching her every motion as if I could decode her lies through the way she buttered bread or rinsed a glass. We ate in near silence. The clinking of silverware against porcelain sounded like gunshots in the quiet. Once meals had been filled with laughter, with her soft humming and my half-told stories about work. Now each bite felt like swallowing shards of glass. I wanted to scream at her, to demand the truth again, to force her to acknowledge what she'd done. But instead I chewed, swallowed, and let her orchestrate the silence. That evening she broke it. You've been distant, she said, setting her fork down with careful precision. I almost choked. Distant? My voice cracked with disbelief. You're the one hiding messages, sneaking around, lying. Her eyes narrowed, calm, steady. You've imagined half of this, Daniel. You've built some paranoid story in your head. The words hit harder than any scream. I knew what I'd heard. I knew Ethan's voice. But she looked at me as though I were insane, her gaze steady, her lips soft with pity. You're twisting reality, she continued. You always do this. You forget things, then you invent them. Do you even hear yourself? I stared at her, mouth dry. A part of me wanted to argue, to throw the voicemail in her face again, but another part hesitated. What if I had misheard? What if exhaustion, paranoia, and fear had warped it? Claire, I whispered, I'm not crazy. She leaned back, folding her arms. Then stop acting like it. The gaslight flickered in her words, burning hotter each time we spoke. She started reminding me of things I'd supposedly said but couldn't recall. Small details, times, dates, conversations, slipped through my grasp, replaced by her version of events. One night, I asked, Do you remember telling me you'd be home by 8? She tilted her head, confusion painted on her face. I never said that, you must have dreamed it. But I knew she had. I remembered the exact tone of her voice when she promised. Yet doubt crept in, poisoning me. The house became a minefield. Every corner carried tension. The bed felt cold, the walls too close, the air heavy with unspoken war. She moved with rehearsed calm, smiling when others called, acting the perfect wife outside our home. But with me, she sharpened her words into knives. Daniel, you're not well, she whispered one night as I sat staring at the dark ceiling. You should talk to someone. Maybe see a doctor. I turned my head toward her. You want me to believe I'm sick? That I imagined everything? Her hand brushed my arm, soft, soothing, venomous. Sometimes our minds play tricks. I just want you to be okay. Her touch felt like poison. Days blurred into nights, nights into empty mornings. The house was no longer a home, it was a stage, where every smile, every sigh, every silence was a performance. And I was the only one who knew the script was a lie. But even knowing, I began to falter. I doubted myself in ways I never had before. Was the voicemail as damning as I remembered? Had I filled in words that weren't there? Was Ethan truly what I feared, or just a ghost born from my jealousy? I told myself I needed proof, something solid to anchor my sanity. But proof meant looking deeper into shadows I wasn't sure I could survive. One thing was clear. The woman across the table, the woman lying beside me, was no longer the Claire I had married. She was someone else, someone who could twist my memories until I no longer trusted my own mind. And if I couldn't trust myself, how could I fight her? I lay awake that night, the house suffocating around me, and realized I was beginning to fracture. The lies weren't just hers anymore. They were becoming mine, reshaping me from the inside. Something inside me whispered that soon, the darkness would be all I had left. The house no longer felt like mine. It was hers. Every corner, every shadow, every silence carried her fingerprints, her lies. I walked through it at night like an intruder, restless, unable to sleep. The bed was too cold, the walls too thin, the air too heavy. I kept hearing Ethan's voice in my head, whispering from that voicemail, echoing through the dark. I can still taste you. At first, I tried to ignore it. But the more she smiled at her phone, the more she slipped away from me, the deeper I sank. Sleep abandoned me. I lay awake until dawn, staring at the ceiling, watching the faint glow of her phone under her pillow, imagining words I wasn't allowed to read. By day, I began watching her. Quietly, carefully. She thought I was distracted, but I noticed everything. The way she lingered outside after work, the way she angled her body when she texted, the way her laughter softened when she thought I wasn't listening. One evening, I followed her. She told me she had a late meeting at the office. I waited 10 minutes, then grabbed my coat and slipped into the car. I kept my headlights off until I was sure she wouldn't notice. My hands clutched the wheel so tightly my knuckles ached. She didn't go to the office. She drove across town to a small cafe, the kind of place we used to visit when we first fell in love. I parked far enough away to stay hidden, but close enough to watch through the window. And then he appeared. Ethan. His posture relaxed, his smile easy. She looked up at him with that same light in her eyes, that glow I hadn't seen directed at me in months. My stomach twisted. I couldn't hear their words, but I didn't need to. The way she leaned in, the way she brushed her hair behind her ear, the way she laughed, it was enough. I stayed until they left together, my heart pounding, rage simmering in my chest. I wanted to storm in, to drag her away, to tear the truth out of both of them. But I stayed rooted in my car, paralyzed by the weight of betrayal. When she returned home later that night, she smiled faintly, pretending nothing had happened. I sat in the living room waiting. "You're up late," she said lightly. "Couldn't sleep," I replied. My voice was flat, my eyes locked on her. She shifted uneasily under my stare but said nothing more. From that night on, obsession became my companion. I searched her purse when she showered. I scrolled through receipts in the trash. I studied her planner, her notes, every scrap of handwriting for hidden meanings. I needed proof, something solid, something she couldn't twist into gaslight. One night, while she slept, I opened her drawer and found a folded piece of paper. My hands trembled as I read it. Friday, 7:30. "Don't forget the red dress." I shoved it back quickly, my pulse racing, my mind spinning with images I didn't want to see. The line between love and hatred blurred inside me. I still remembered the softness of her touch, the warmth of her laugh when it was mine. But now those memories burned like acid, reminders of what she had given away. Some nights. I stood by the bed watching her sleep. Her face looked peaceful, innocent, almost angelic in the glow of the streetlight outside. My chest ached with love, but beneath it, rage pulsed like a second heartbeat. I wanted to kiss her and strangle her all at once. "Claire," I whispered once, though she didn't stir. "Why are you doing this to me?" The question dissolved into silence, unanswered. Unwanted, I began losing track of time. Days slipped into nights, hours into shadows. At work, I barely functioned, my mind consumed by her lies. My colleagues noticed the dark circles under my eyes, the weight I was shedding, but I brushed them off. Nobody could understand. Nobody knew the war inside me. By the end of that week, I knew I was changing. I no longer recognized the man in the mirror. His eyes were too hollow, his jaw too tight, his soul too consumed by fire. I told myself I wasn't crazy. I told myself I was simply searching for the truth. But as I stood in the attic one night, staring at boxes she had kept hidden from me, I realized the darkness was pulling me deeper. And whatever secrets waited inside those boxes would either break me completely or finally give me the proof I craved. The attic smelled of dust and forgotten years. Cobwebs hung like curtains in the corners, and the wooden beams groaned softly beneath my weight. I had never paid much attention to this space. It was Claire's domain, a place she organized, a place I rarely entered. But that night, with the darkness clawing at me, I felt drawn there as though the answers were waiting above my head. I searched through the boxes, most filled with old clothes, books, and yellowing holiday decorations. Then I saw it, an unmarked box tucked behind a stack of winter coats. Unlike the others, this one was sealed with heavy tape, edges worn from being handled more than hidden. My hand shook as I pulled it into the light. The tape peeled back reluctantly, like it wanted to keep its secrets buried. Inside, I found photographs first, Claire with friends I didn't know in places she'd never mentioned. In some, she was smiling with an intensity I hadn't seen in years, her arm wrapped around men I'd never met. One man's face appeared again and again, his expression wild, his hand always clinging to her waist. Beneath the photos were letters. I unfolded one carefully, my eyes narrowing as I read the ink. "Claire, I can't stop thinking about the way you looked at me last night. You drive me crazy. You're dangerous, but I don't care. I'd risk anything for you. The signature was smudged, but the tone screamed intimacy. My stomach knotted. These weren't just casual flings. This was a pattern, a history she had buried long before me. At the bottom of the box lay something worse, a newspaper clipping, its edges brittle. I held it up to the dim attic light. The headline made my throat tighten. "Local man found dead after violent dispute." The article described an altercation outside a bar, where the man in the photographs had been killed. His name matched the signature from the letters. The police suspected a fight with a jealous partner, though no charges had ever been filed. And there, scribbled faintly in the margin, were words in Claire's handwriting. "He deserved it." I nearly dropped the clipping. My chest felt hollow, my breath shallow. This wasn't just betrayal. This was something darker, something dangerous. Claire hadn't only lied to me about Ethan. She had lied about who she was, about the ghosts trailing her long before we met. I stuffed the photographs and clipping back into the box, hands trembling. My mind reeled. The sound of the attic ladder creaked suddenly, and I froze. Claire's voice floated up, soft but edged with suspicion. "Daniel, what are you doing up there?" I shoved the lid closed, sliding the box behind me, heart racing. "Just looking for old photo albums," I said, my voice unsteady. She climbed halfway up the ladder, her face appearing in the dim light. Her eyes scanned the mess around me, sharp, probing. At this hour, I couldn't sleep. I forced a smile that felt like glass breaking in my mouth. Her gaze lingered on me for a long moment. Then she smiled faintly, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Be careful, the attic can be dangerous." The words sent a chill through me. She disappeared down the ladder, her footsteps fading. I stayed frozen in the dark, listening to my heartbeat thunder in my ears. The box was still behind me, its weight unbearable. I had uncovered something I wasn't supposed to see, something she had deliberately hidden, and now she knew I was looking. When I finally climbed down, the house felt smaller, heavier, every shadow whispering a warning. Claire was sitting calmly on the couch, phone in hand, her expression unreadable. I realized then that the betrayal wasn't just about Ethan. It was deeper, older, soaked in blood and secrets I hadn't even begun to understand. And soon, she would have to confess, whether she wanted to or not. I didn't sleep that night. The box from the attic haunted me, like a curse. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the photographs, the letters, the clipped headline with her handwriting scrawled in the margins. He deserved it. By dawn, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the steam curling from a forgotten cup of coffee. The silence in the house was suffocating. Claire moved upstairs with her usual routine. Shower, makeup, the faint scent of perfume wafting through the air. But now I knew what lived beneath her skin, and every detail felt like a performance. When she finally walked into the kitchen, her hair damp and shining, her expression unreadable, I realized I couldn't keep the words in anymore. "Claire," I said, my voice hoarse, "we need to talk." She paused, eyes flicking to mine with a flicker of recognition. She knew. I slid, the newspaper clipping across the table. Her gaze dropped to it, then back up at me. For a moment, there was no fear, no surprise, only resignation. "Where did you find that?" she asked quietly. "In the attic," I said. My voice cracked, along with the letters, the pictures. "Everything you hid." She pulled out a chair and sat across from me, her face calm, almost serene. "So now you know." The simplicity of her tone sent a chill down my spine. No denial, no attempt to cover it up. I leaned forward. "Why? Why? Didn't you tell me? Why keep something like this buried?" She tilted her head slightly, her eyes cold. "Would it have made a difference, Daniel? You would have married me anyway. You needed me. You've always needed me." Her words stung. I had hoped for tears, for regret, anything to prove that our love had meant something. Instead, she was rewriting everything we had built. "You betrayed me," I whispered. "I saved myself," she countered. "That man, you think you know what happened, but you don't. He was violent, dangerous. He would have destroyed me. I did what I had to do." "But the letters," I said, shoving them toward her. "You loved him." A bitter smile tugged at her lips. "Love isn't always safe. Sometimes it consumes. You wouldn't understand." Her detachment felt like a knife twisting in my chest. "And Ethan," I demanded, "is he just another version of him? Another lie?" Her eyes sharpened. For the first time, a hint of anger bled through her calm mask. "Ethan makes me feel alive, something you haven't done in years. You cling, Daniel. You suffocate. Do you even realize how exhausting it is to be married to someone who sees devotion as ownership?" Her voice cut deeper than any blade. She wasn't just confessing her betrayal. She was dismantling me, piece by piece. I sat in silence, the weight of her words pressing down until I could barely breathe. She leaned back, crossing her arms as though she had won something. "You always thought you were the victim," she said softly. "But maybe the problem has always been you." The room seemed to tilt. I stared at her, searching for the woman I once believed in, the one who had promised forever. But all I saw was someone who had mastered the art of control, who wielded her truths like weapons. "Claire," my voice broke. "Did you ever love me?" For the first time, she hesitated. Her lips parted, but no words came. That pause was enough. The silence screamed louder than any confession. I pushed back from the table, my chair scraping against the floor. My body felt hollow, my heart nothing but shards. I wanted to scream, to rage, but all I could do was stare at her. The woman I had given my life to, the woman who had reduced it to rubble with a calm confession. She watched me stand, her face unreadable again. You should accept it, Daniel, she said softly. This is who I am, and maybe this is who you've always been afraid to see. Her words followed me as I stumbled into the living room. The walls seemed to close in, every picture frame mocking the illusion we had built. I sank onto the couch, my body trembling. My chest felt like it was caving in. Everything was gone. Trust, love, even the fragile hope that things could be repaired. Had thought discovering her betrayal would be the worst part. I was wrong. It was her coldness, her ability to rewrite our history and twist me into the villain that shattered me beyond repair. For the first time since this began, I felt nothing. Not rage, not heartbreak, just emptiness. And in that emptiness, something darker began to stir. The storm rolled in at dusk, black clouds swallowing the last light of day. Rain battered the windows in violent sheets, each strike echoing the pounding in my chest. I sat in the living room, lights dim, staring at the floor as thunder growled. Across the sky, the emptiness I had felt since Claire's confession clung to me, heavy and suffocating. But beneath it, something darker was rising. A pressure building with every tick of the clock. She came downstairs, heels clicking against the wood, dressed as if she were going out. My gut clenched at the sight of her, hair curled, lipstick crimson. A perfume so sharp it burned my throat. She didn't look at me. She didn't need to. Her silence was deliberate, like I wasn't even there. Where are you going? My voice cracked the air between us. She paused at the door, her hand tightening around the umbrella. Don't wait up. The words were a dagger, so casual, so final. Is it him? I demanded. My pulse throbbed in my temples. Are you really going to him, after everything you just said? She finally turned, her eyes flashing with cold amusement. Would it matter if I was? Something inside me snapped. The storm outside was nothing compared to the one inside me. I rose from the couch, trembling, my fists clenching at my sides. After all we've been through, you just throw it away? You make me the villain and then run to him like I never existed? Her lips curled into a bitter smile. You never existed the way you thought you did, Daniel. You were convenient, safe, but safe isn't enough. The thunder cracked so loud the walls seemed to shake. I felt my body move before my mind could catch up. I closed the distance between us in seconds, grabbing her wrist as she reached for the handle. Don't you dare walk out that door, I growled. Her eyes flared with defiance. Or what? You'll finally show me who you really are? Her words lit the fuse. I shoved the umbrella aside and it clattered to the floor. We were inches apart, our breaths mingling, the air charged with fury. She tried to pull away, but I held tighter. Let go of me, Daniel, she shouted. The storm howled through the house as if the world itself wanted to witness what was happening. Tell me the truth, I roared. Did you ever love me, even for a second? Her face hardened, her voice slicing through me. No, not the way you wanted. Not enough to save you from yourself. The world blurred. Her words ricocheted in my skull until nothing else existed. My grip tightened, too tight, fueled by every sleepless night, every unanswered question, every cruel smile she had given me. She struggled, pushing at my chest, her nails digging into my skin. Stop, she screamed, but her voice was drowned by the storm. Then it happened. The line between rage and desperation vanished. I don't remember the exact motion, only the weight of her body colliding with the wall, the sickening crack that followed, and the silence that bled into the room. She crumpled to the floor, her eyes wide, her breath shallow. Time froze. My heart stopped with hers. Blood trickled from her temple, dark against the pale glow of lightning flashing through the window. Her chest rose once, then again, shallow, weak. I staggered back, my body trembling uncontrollably. My hands were shaking, stained with her warmth. I wanted to scream, to undo it, but my throat was sealed shut by horror. Claire. My voice was a ghost. I dropped to my knees beside her, pressing my hands against the wound, begging her to open her eyes, to speak, to tell me this wasn't real. Please, Stay with me. I didn't mean, God, I didn't mean. But her gaze was slipping, unfocused, her lips parting soundlessly. Outside, the storm screamed louder, rain hammering the glass like 1,000 fists. I pressed my forehead against hers, tears burning down my face. I love you, I whispered, though the words felt hollow now, drowned in the blood between us. Her body went still. The silence that followed was absolute. No thunder, no breath, just the unbearable weight of what I had done. I sat there cradling her, my mind fractured. Accident or intent, it no longer mattered. The line was gone, erased in a single irreversible moment. The house felt like a coffin. Every shadow deepened, every creak of the storm outside turning into judgment. I could feel the walls closing, mocking me with memories of laughter, love, the fragile illusion of forever. My hand slipped from her body, falling uselessly to my sides. I stared at her lifeless form, the red blooming beneath her head like a grotesque halo. My heart hammered so violently I thought it would tear itself apart. There was no going back. I stumbled to my feet, every movement sluggish, unreal. My reflection in the window stared back at me, a man I didn't recognize, eyes hollow, face pale, hands marked with the proof of his sin. I whispered into the silence, not knowing if I was talking to her or to myself. It's done. And in that whisper, I understood. The night had swallowed us both, leaving nothing but blood, silence, and horror in its wake. The silence after her body went still never truly ended. Even when the storm passed and the night gave way to dawn, the quiet pressed against me like, await. But outside these walls, silence wasn't what people remembered. They remembered the sounds, the shouting, the crashes, the storm carrying our voices into the street like a confession. By morning, whispers were already circulating. I heard them through the thin glass as I sat motionless in the kitchen, the bitter smell of blood still clinging to me. Did you hear the fighting last night? Mrs. Harlan, from next door, her voice sharp as gossip always was. They were at it again, louder this time. Mr. Ellis with that disapproving shake in his tone. Something bad must have happened. I saw the lights on until nearly 3. Their words carved into me. I wanted to scream that they didn't know me, didn't know us, didn't understand what drove me to that moment. But maybe they did. Maybe they had been watching all along, waiting for the fracture to break open. The knock on the door came just afternoon, slow, deliberate. I opened it to the detectives, 2 of them, raincoats still dripping from the morning drizzle. Their presence felt heavier than the storm itself. Mr. Hayes? One asked, his eyes scanning me with unsettling calm. Yes, I managed, my throat dry, my body leaden. We'd like to ask you a few questions about last night. I nodded, stepping aside, though every instinct screamed to keep them out. They entered, their eyes sweeping across the living room, pausing too long on the dark stain by the wall where the carpet hadn't yet dried. Your neighbors reported hearing loud arguments, the taller one said, pulling out a notepad. Can you tell us what happened? The words tangled in my mouth. I wanted to explain, to make them understand that it wasn't supposed to happen, that it was the storm, the rage, the years of betrayal pressing down on me. But what came out was fractured. We argued. We've been arguing a lot, and then she slipped. The lie felt weak even as I spoke it. The detectives exchanged a glance. I caught it, and hated myself for noticing. My narration cracked as I tried to hold on to fragments of truth and lies. One moment I was the victim, a man betrayed, broken by the woman he loved. The next I was the monster, the one who ended her life with his own hands. Both identities lived in me now, clawing for dominance. They kept asking questions. How long? Had the fighting been going on? Did anyone else have reason to hurt her? Did I know about the other man? Each question was a blade, peeling away the illusions I had tried to hold on to. I saw flashes of the neighbor's eyes through the blinds, Mrs. Harlan pretending to water her plants, Ellis standing too long by his mailbox. Their stares weren't casual curiosity anymore. They were verdicts being written in silence. One detective finally closed his notebook. "We'll need you to come down to the station for a formal statement." I nodded, but inside I was screaming. Not because I feared what they would find, but because I knew it was already written on me. On my face, on my trembling hands. In the hollow way I spoke her name. That night, when the house was finally empty again, I sat alone, surrounded by the echoes of whispers and the smell of damp blood that refused to fade. I thought of Claire's eyes in her final moments, unfocused, fading, yet still accusing. I thought of the neighbors' voices weaving a narrative of who I was. Not Daniel the husband, not Daniel the man betrayed, but Daniel the one who ended. It all. And as the shadows deepened, I realized the truth no detective needed to uncover. I wasn't just grieving her. I was grieving the man I used to be, the man I killed the same night I killed her. The walls of this house don't echo anymore. They absorb. They drink in every word I mutter to myself, every uneven breath, every memory that slips from my lips when I'm too tired to hold it back. The detectives came and went. The neighbors still whisper. And yet in here, silence has teeth. I sit at the table where Claire once sat across from me, her laughter soft, her hands curled around a glass of wine. It feels like a ghost scene. Furniture and shadows performing a play for an audience of one. I try to remember her as she was before Ethan, before the lies, before the distance that turned her smile into a stranger's. But the memory is fragile, collapsing under the weight of what I know now. They'll say I killed her once that night when my rage and heartbreak spilled out through my hands. But in truth, she died twice. Once when she gave her heart away to someone else, and once when her body went still on our living room floor. And maybe I died twice as well. Once as the man who loved her beyond reason, and once as the man who destroyed her in the end. I mourn both versions of us. The detectives told me they'll be back soon. There's paperwork, evidence, questions that never stop multiplying. They didn't call me guilty, not yet, but I saw it in their eyes. They saw the same thing the neighbors saw, a man unraveling, a man who couldn't let go. Every glance from across the street is already a verdict. I tell myself I'm still human, that I'm not just a headline waiting to be printed. Husband snaps, wife dead in storm of betrayal. But the line between Daniel Hayes' husband and Daniel Hayes' killer grows thinner every hour. Last night I couldn't sleep. I walked the rooms in circles, every step taking me back to moments I once thought ordinary. The couch where she curled against me on winter nights, the hallway where she kissed me before leaving for work, the bed where I thought dreams were shared, not betrayed. All of it poisoned now. I can't touch a single thing without tasting her lies on it. And yet I still ache for her. That's the cruelty of it. Even knowing the truth, even seeing her with Ethan in the way she looked at me long ago, some part of me still longs for the version of Claire who was mine, the woman who smiled at me on our wedding day as though the world was ours to hold. That Claire is gone forever, buried beneath deceit and blood. The trial, or whatever comes next, will strip me bare. They'll call experts, dig up her past, my past, drag everything we hid into the light. And still, the one thing they'll never understand is how love can turn into something sharp enough to kill. They'll reduce it to motive, anger, jealousy, but they'll never capture the truth, that I loved her so much it hollowed me out, and in the emptiness, violence found a home. I wonder what Ethan thinks now. If he feels guilt, relief, or nothing at all, maybe he'll stand at her grave and tell himself he was the only one who truly knew her. Maybe he'll curse me for stealing her away before he could. I almost envy him. His memories of her aren't tainted by what came at the end. He can still dream of her as his dot. For me, every memory ends the same way. Her face pale, her lips still, her eyes dimming. That is the final image branded into me. No amount of longing or self-deception can erase it. The law will decide my fate. Soon enough, but my punishment began the moment the storm ended. Because no matter where they send me, I will carry this house inside me. The lies, the shouting, the silence after. I'll carry Claire, both the woman I loved and the woman I destroyed. I used to believe love was eternal, that no betrayal could erase the bond we built. But I see now that love is fragile, breakable, capable of dying twice. First in the heart, then in the flesh. I loved her more than life. I lost her more than once. And now, as the world closes in, on me I realize I am mourning not just Claire but Daniel Hayes, the man who loved, the man who trusted, the man who no longer exists.